At Mike Sullivan's retirement ceremony, everyone was applauding him. 30 years of perfect service, an unblemished record, countless successful operations. As he spoke as commissioner, Mike's voice was trembling because he knew that he had never been able to tell anyone about his greatest achievement. In 1998, alone and completely secretly, he had carried out an operation that stopped America's most dangerous crime organization leader. And today, it was finally time to tell the truth. I wonder where you're watching this story from today. Don't forget to write which city you're watching from in the comments. Whether you're from the noisy streets of New York or the quiet neighborhoods of Los Angeles. You've probably wondered about the real story behind a police officer before, but none of you would have thought that such a big secret could be kept for 25 years. This isn't just a secret operation story, it's also a story about what conscience, justice, and personal sacrifice really mean. Michael Patrick Sullivan was born in Brooklyn. His father, Patrick Sullivan, was a 25-year veteran, serving as a sergeant in the NYPD. His mother, Margaret, was the daughter of Irish immigrants, a tough but fair woman. Mike's childhood was shaped by the discipline of a police family. Every evening when his father came home, he would tell stories about his day, but he never talked about violence, never about injustice. Being a police officer, his father would say, means protecting the people. Not protecting yourself. Little Mike wanted to be like his father, but not just because of the police profession. He wanted to imitate his father Patrick's sense of justice and honesty. In 1978, after finishing high school, Mike briefly studied law at Brooklyn College. But he dropped out after 2 years and applied to the I want to learn in the field rather than from books, he told his family. His father Patrick initially opposed it. You don't know how hard this job is, son, he said. But Mike was determined. At 20 years old, he entered the police academy as an idealistic young man, full of justice. The 6 months at the NYPD Police Academy shaped Mike's life. Here he learned not just technical knowledge, but the philosophy of being a police officer. The instructor who influenced him most was Detective Captain Robert Bobby Torino. Bobby Torino was one of the NYPD's most experienced names in fighting organized crime. Italian mafia, Irish gangs, Russian organizations. He knew them all closely. Organized crime, Bobby would say, is not just crime, it's a cancer that rots the fabric of society, and we are the surgeons of this cancer. Mike excelled in these classes. His analytical intelligence, attention to detail, and patient character made him different. Bobby Torino noticed that Mike had special abilities. In 1981, Mike graduated first in his class from the academy and began duty as a beat cop in Manhattan's Lower East Side. This area was one of New York's most dangerous neighborhoods at the time. Drug dealers, gang members, petty criminals. The first months were tough. Mike's idealistic approach clashed with street realities. But over time, he found balance. He became a police officer who was both tough and fair, both understanding and determined. In 1983, he earned the right to become a detective. This promotion was the first major turning point in Mike's career. The first place he was assigned as a detective was the Organized Crime Control Bureau. This was the NYPD's special unit that fought organized crime. He was assigned here upon the recommendation of his instructor Bobby Torino. His first major case was the incident known as the Little Italy bombing. In 1984, a bomb was thrown at a restaurant in Little Italy. 3 people died, 8 were injured. The FBI and NYPD launched a joint operation. Mike's task was scene investigation and collecting witness statements, but he conducted more in-depth research. The type of bomb, how it was placed, the targeted people, he analyzed every detail. After 3 months of work, Mike revealed that the Genovese family was behind this attack. But he didn't just find this, he also discovered that the real reason for the attack was to make rival families leave the negotiation table. This success made Mike's name known in the organized crime unit. Now he was one of the promising young detectives. In 1985, Mike met Helen McCarthy, who worked as a nurse at a hospital in Manhattan. Mike had been injured during a case and taken to the emergency room. Helen was the nurse who treated him. Helen was the daughter of an Irish family, like Mike. But she was very different from Mike. She was calm, peaceful, wanting a world without violence. Although Mike's profession worried her, she had fallen in love with Mike's character. "You're not like other police officers," Helen had said during their first dates. "There's not anger in your eyes, but a search for justice." Mike and Helen's love developed quickly. They married in 1986. Their wedding was held at St. Patrick's Cathedral in Brooklyn. About 200 police officers from the NYPD attended. The first years of their marriage were full of happiness. Helen helped Mike forget the stress from his work at home. Mike proved to Helen that there were good people in the world. In 1988, their first child, Patrick, was born. They wanted Patrick to have a sense of justice like his father. In 1991, their second child, Margaret, Maggie, was born. Mike was now working not just for himself but for his family. His fight against organized crime was so his children could live in a safe world. In 1992, the FBI called the NYPD Organized Crime Unit for cooperation in a major operation. The target was Vincent "Vinny" Torino. The interesting thing was that this man was the brother of Mike's former instructor, Bobby Torino. Vincent Torino was the head of one of New York's most powerful crime families. Drug trafficking, money laundering, extortion, murder. He was at the center of every type of illegal activity. The FBI had been trying to catch him for 10 years. Bobby Torino had refused to participate in this operation. Running an operation against his brother was too difficult for him. But Mike didn't want to miss this opportunity. "This isn't personal," he told FBI agent Sarah Mitchell. "This is for justice." The operation was launched as Operation Family Ties. The plan was to infiltrate Vincent Torino's organization to gather evidence. Mike's task was to gain Vincent's trust and obtain inside information. This operation would begin the most difficult and dangerous period of Mike's life. The FBI and NYPD prepared a new identity for Mike. He was no longer Michael "Mickey" Sullivan. He would be someone who grew up in Brooklyn, did small-scale gambling operations, and winked at organized crime. This identity change wasn't just on paper. Mike changed his way of speaking, his behavior, even his style of dress. After months of preparation, he now looked like a convincing small-time criminal. The first contact took place at a poker game in Queens. Sal Benedetto, one of Vincent Torino's men, was a regular customer of this game. Mike's task was to catch Sal's attention. This task was easier than he thought. Mike was quite good at poker and beat Sal in several hands. Sal began to wonder who Mike was. "Which family's man are you in Brooklyn?" Sal asked. Mike told the story he had prepared. Sal believed Mike's story and offered to introduce him to Vincent Torino. "But be careful," Sal said. "Mr. Torino doesn't like everyone. If you lie to him, it'll be the last lie you tell." The first encounter with Vincent Torino took place at Tony's restaurant in Little Italy. This restaurant was the unofficial headquarters of the Torino family. Business was discussed here. Deals were made. Sometimes scores were settled. Vincent Torino was 55 years old, experienced and very intelligent. His hair was silver, his manner calm but his eyes very sharp. When he saw Mike, he looked him up and down. "Are you Mickey?" he asked. "Yes, Mr. Torino," Mike said respectfully. "Sal spoke highly of you. Says you're good at poker, did some business in the past. But I don't know you, and I don't trust people I don't know." Mike knew this moment would come. Vincent was going to test him. "I won't disappoint you," Mike said. "Trust is earned, not given." Vincent smiled. He liked this answer. "Look," he said, "maybe there's a small job for you. But first I need to know you." This first encounter was the beginning of Mike's entry into Vincent's world. There was no turning back now. Over the next 6 months, Mike gradually infiltrated Vincent Torino's organization. At first, he was given small jobs, carrying messages, security at gambling games, small money collections. Mike did every job perfectly. He proved he was a reliable, quiet and effective man. Vincent also began to trust Mike more and more. During this period, Mike learned the structure of the organization. Vincent had 5 lieutenants under him, each responsible for different illegal activities. Tony the Fish, Marcella, drug operations, Sal Benedetto, gambling and debt collections. Frank Knuckles Romano, extortion and intimidation. Joey Castellano, money laundering. Danny the Nose, Torino, Vincent's nephew, general coordination. The area Mike gathered the most information about was money laundering operations. Joey Castellano was Vincent's most trusted man and managed all financial operations. During this period, Mike's family life became difficult. Every evening when he came home, he carried the fatigue of days spent among criminals. Helen noticed changes in her husband. "You're working more," Helen would say. "And you look very tired when you come home." Mike couldn't tell Helen the details of the operation. This secrecy created distance between them. Their children Patrick and Maggie also noticed that their father was spending less time with them. One evening, Helen called Mike to talk. "Mike, be honest with me. What's happening? What is this operation?" Mike partially told his wife the truth. He said he was trying to catch a major crime organization, that this would take time. But he tried to hide how dangerous the operation was. "Finish this job and come home," Helen said. "Your family needs you." Mike's conscience was torn in two. On one side was his family, on the other was the biggest career opportunity. In early 1994, Mike discovered the true scope of Vincent Torino's organization. This wasn't a local group operating only in New York. It was part of an international money laundering network. Vincent's operation worked like this. In New York, cash from drug sales was collected. In Miami, this money was mixed with other illegal activities. In Switzerland, cleaned money was transferred to offshore accounts. In the Caribbean, clean money returned to America. Monthly money flow was approximately $50 million. This was the largest money laundering operation the FBI had detected at that time. When Mike reported this information to the FBI, it created great excitement. Agent Sarah Mitchell said, "This information can bring down America's largest money laundering operation." But this discovery made Mike's situation even more dangerous, because now he was in Vincent's inner circle and had access to very sensitive information. In the summer of 1994, Vincent Torino included Mike in money laundering operations. Now Mike was working directly with Joey Castellano and learning the details of financial operations. This new position gave Mike tremendous information, but also put him at great risk, because now he was personally carrying out illegal money transfers. On paper, Mike was also committing crimes. The FBI began to worry about Mike's safety. Agent Sarah Mitchell suggested ending the operation. "We've gathered enough information," Sarah said. "We can catch Vincent now." But Mike knew there were bigger fish. Vincent was just the middleman. The real target should be the leaders of the international network. "A few more months," Mike insisted. "We can bring down this entire network." This decision would determine whether it would be the biggest mistake or the biggest success of Mike's life. In early 1995, Vincent Torino organized a big meeting in Miami. All important figures in the money laundering network would attend this meeting. Mike was also invited as one of Vincent's trusted men. This meeting in Miami was a golden opportunity for Mike's operation. Here, he could learn the structure of the entire network, its leaders, and financial rates. The meeting took place at a luxury hotel in Miami Beach. Participants included, they counted, Vincent Torino, New York; Carlos Mendez, Miami Colombian connection; Dmitry Volkov, Brooklyn, Russian Mafia; Jean-Pierre Lambert, Montreal French-Canadian connection. It was announced that the network's annual turnover was $800 million. Also, expansion plans to Italy and Turkey were made. Mike secretly recorded all this information. But during the meeting, he experienced a very dangerous moment. Dmitry Volkov began to suspect Mike. "Who is this man?" he asked Vincent. "I've never seen him." Vincent defended Mike. "Mickey is my reliable man. He's been working with me for 2 years." But Dmitry wasn't convinced. Mike felt himself in great danger. After returning from Miami, Mike learned that Dmitry Volkov was investigating him. The Russian Mafia had conducted research about his past in New York. Vincent called Mike over. His face looked very serious. "Mickey," Vincent said, "Dmitry is asking some questions about you. He says nobody in Brooklyn knows you." Mike's heart felt like it would stop, but he tried to appear calm. "Mr. Torino," he said, I was a small fish. It's not normal for everyone to know me. But if you have doubts, you can investigate yourself. Vincent looked into Mike's eye. I trust you, Mickey. But Dimitri isn't convinced. You may need to show him proof. This conversation showed Mike that the operation was nearing its end. Now either his identity would be exposed, or he would complete the operation and escape. Mike reported the situation to the FBI. An urgent decision needed to be made. There was great debate at the FBI meeting. Agent Sarah Mitchell and her team wanted to immediately remove Mike from the operation. It's not worth the risk, Sarah said. If Mike's identity is exposed, they'll kill him. But Mike thought differently. The information he had was enough to bring down America's largest money laundering network. Giving up now would waste 3 years of effort. Give me one more chance, Mike said. Vincent trusts me. I can convince Dimitri. FBI Director Thomas Walker made the decision. We're giving you 2. If you can't control the situation, we're ending the operation. When Mike went home, Helen's face was worried. She noticed Mike was stressed. Is everything okay? Helen asked. Mike wanted to tell his wife the truth, but both Helen's safety and the operation's secrecy required him to remain silent. Everything's under control, he said. But deep down he knew this wasn't true. Within 2 weeks, Mike had to make his most difficult decision. Vincent Torino had offered him a big job. Go to Switzerland and establish new money transfer routes with Marcus Weber. This job was both a big opportunity and a big risk. If successful, he could access all the details of the money laundering network. But if unsuccessful, both he and his family would be in danger. During the same period, Dmitry Volkov had increased his suspicions about Mike. He told Vincent that Mike needed to pass a real test. What is this test? Vincent asked. He needs to kill someone, Dmitry said coldly. Vincent rejected this proposal. Mickey is good with money matters. He doesn't need to be a killer. But Dmitry insisted, if he's not one of us, we need to find out. When Mike heard this conversation, he realized the operation had reached its end. Now he had to choose. Either reveal his real identity, or endanger the FBI operation. In March 1998, the situation reached a critical point. Dmitry Volkov had convinced Vincent Mike needed to pass a loyalty test. The target was to kill a man from a rival family. When Mike reported this situation to the FBI, the operation was immediately terminated. Mike's safety was now more important than anything. The operation is over, said Agent Sarah Mitchell. We're extracting you to a safe place tomorrow morning. But Mike wanted to talk to Vincent one last time. They had worked together for 4 years. And strangely, Mike had begun to respect this criminal. Their last conversation took place at Tony's restaurant. Vincent's face was sad. Mickey, Vincent said. I learned who you really are. Mike's heart stopped. What do you mean, Mr. Torino? Are you a cop? Vincent asked directly. Mike could no longer lie. Yes, he said. Detective Mike Sullivan, NYPD. Vincent nodded. I knew it. You were asking too many questions lately. And Dimitri's suspicions were right too. Mike prepared to stand up. Vincent's men could attack at any moment. But Vincent did something unexpected. He raised his hand and signaled his men, don't touch. Sit down, Mickey, Vincent said. Or should I say Mike now? Mike sat down confused. There was no anger on Vincent's face. There was a strange peace. I've been working with you for 4 years, Vincent said. You were my most reliable man. You always did your job right. You never lied to me. You just hid who you were. Mike couldn't answer. This reaction was something he never expected. I want you to know, Vincent continued, while you were doing this job. I also made a decision. I decided to get out of this life. Vincent took out an envelope from under the table and handed it to Mike. This envelope contains all the details of the money laundering network. Names, banks, account numbers, operation details, everything. Mike's mouth fell open. Why? Because I can't continue this business anymore, Vincent said. Since you came, I started thinking this business was wrong. You hid being an honest cop, but you always acted honestly. This changed me. Vincent stood up. Give this envelope to the FBI. They can bring down the entire network. I'm going to Italy. I won't be part of this business anymore." When Mike went to FBI headquarters with the envelope Vincent gave him, there was great shock. The information inside the envelope was more detailed than the FBI could have ever imagined. Not only Vincent Torino's organization, but the structure of the entire money laundering network in America was revealed. 47 different crime organizations, 56 shell companies, 89 bank accounts in 23 countries. FBI Director Thomas Walker said, "This is one of the FBI's greatest successes in history." The operation resulted in 37 people arrested, $2.3 billion in assets seized, simultaneous operations in 12 countries. America's largest money laundering network dismantled, but the biggest irony of this success was that Mike Sullivan's name, the hero of the operation, was not mentioned anywhere. The FBI had kept Mike's identity secret for security reasons. After the operation, Mike returned to normal detective duties, but he was no longer the same. The secret life he had lived for 4 years had deeply affected him. Helen noticed the change in her husband. Mike had become more withdrawn, quieter. He had nightmares at night and sometimes murmured Vincent's name in his sleep. "This operation changed you," Helen said one night. "Talk to me. What did you experience?" Mike wanted to tell his wife, but the FBI's secrecy decision was very firm. The operation's details would remain secret for 25 years. "We achieved great success," he could only say. "But I can't tell you the details." This secrecy created an invisible wall between Mike and Helen. Helen began to think her husband didn't trust her. Their children Patrick and Maggie also noticed their father had changed. He wasn't as energetic as before, he didn't play with them as much. Within the FBI, Mike's success was appreciated, but he couldn't receive any official awards. His name wasn't mentioned in the media. Even within the NYPD, only a few senior executives knew the truth. This situation further deteriorated Mike's mood. He had risked his life for 4 years, neglected his family, but in return found only silence. In 1999, Mike began receiving psychological support. He started meeting with Dr. Elizabeth Carter, recommended by the NYPD. "What happened to you, Mike?" Dr. Carter asked in the first session. "I accomplished something big," Mike said, "but I can't tell anyone. It's as if it never happened. How does this affect you?" "I feel like 4 years of my life were stolen. I made a huge sacrifice, but no one knows its value." Dr. Carter explained that Mike's condition was secret success syndrome. This was a psychological condition experienced by agents working in secret operations. In 2001, Mike Sullivan was promoted to commissioner, captain. This promotion was made not only because of his successful detective background, but also because of his leadership capacity. Commissioner Mike took duty at the 42nd Precinct, Bronx. His duties here were more administrative. He now worked at his desk, not in the field. This new position gave Mike a different perspective. Instead of fighting organized crime, he now dealt with neighborhood security and training young police officers. Commissioner Mike's greatest success was being a mentor to young police officers. He taught them not only technical knowledge but also about the ethics of the profession. Being a police officer isn't just about catching criminals, he would say. It's also about gaining society's trust. During this period, Mike began to make peace with the memories of the Vincent Torino operation he was trying to forget. The 2008 financial crisis affected organized crime as well as many sectors in America. As banks tightened, money laundering routes also got blocked. During this period, Mike had an unexpected visitor. FBI agent Sarah Mitchell hadn't contacted Mike after retiring, but now she was standing in front of him. "Mike," Sarah said, "I need to tell you something. Vincent Torino is dead." Mike was shocked. It had been 10 years since he last saw Vincent. When? How? Last month, in Italy. Natural causes, heart attack. But before he died, he wrote a letter, addressed to you. Sarah handed Mike an envelope. It said Detective Mike Sullivan, NYPD on. Mike opened the letter and read, "Dear Mike, if you're reading this letter, I'm no longer alive. I never regretted the decision I made 10 years ago. You taught me what honesty means. I lived a quiet life in Italy. I thought about my past mistakes and regretted that. You succeeded in your operation, but I also succeeded in my operation. The operation of trying to be a good person. Thank you. You didn't just do your police duty, you also changed a person." Vincent Torino. After reading the letter, Mike remained silent for a long time. Learning that Vincent's change was real deeply affected him. In the early 2010s, Mike returned to the NYPD's Organized Crime Control Bureau. This time as a manager, he was now managing young detectives. Organized crime had also changed during this period. Now there were not only Italian mafia, but also Russian, Chinese, Mexican organizations. Cybercrimes had increased. Money laundering had become digital. Mike's experience was very valuable in fighting these new threats. But young detectives didn't know Mike's background. Detective Lisa Rodriguez was one of the brightest elements in Mike's team. One day she had asked Mike, "Captain, you're very experienced in fighting organized crime. What was your biggest case?" Mike paused. "Some cases remain secret," he said. "But every case has a lesson." In 2018, Mike Sullivan decided to retire at age 58. His 38-year NYPD career was ending. This decision wasn't easy. Helen was now 60 and wanted her husband to be home more. Their children Patrick and Maggie had grown up and established their own lives. Patrick had become a lawyer and worked in Manhattan. Maggie had become a doctor and opened a pediatric clinic in Brooklyn. Both were proud of their father, but they never learned about their father's greatest achievement. While preparing for retirement, Mike found old documents from the Vincent Torino operation while organizing files at home. Personal documents that the FBI allowed in Vincent's letter. These documents awakened nostalgic feelings in Mike. 20 years had passed, but that operation was still the greatest success of his career. In 2023, the FBI announced that the secrecy period for the Vincent Torino operation had ended. Now 25 years had passed and the operation's details could be shared with the public. FBI Director William Barnes called Mike. "Mr. Sullivan," he said, "we want to share the story of your operation with the public. This was one of the most successful operations in FBI history." Mike was initially reluctant. "Does this have meaning after all these years?" "Of course it does, especially for our young agents. It's a very valuable example. Also, society should learn about your sacrifice." Mike asked for time to think about this offer. He talked to Helen. "Can you tell now?" Helen asked. "I've been wondering for 25 years. Mike told his wife all the details of the operation. Helen was shocked. "Were you in such dangerous work for 4 years? Why didn't you tell me?" "I couldn't tell. It was FBI rules. But I'm sorry you always wondered." Helen finally understood her husband's sacrifice. Mike Sullivan's retirement ceremony was held at NYPD, One Police Plaza. More than 200 police officers, FBI agents and family members attended the ceremony. Commissioner Robert Martinez was managing the ceremony. In his speech, he summarized Mike's 38-year career. Detective Sullivan is one of the most successful commissioners of the NYPD. He achieved unique successes in fighting organized crime. But no one knew the real story. When it was Mike's turn to speak, he addressed the NYPD family from the podium. "For 38 years I wore this uniform with honor. During this time we solved many cases, caught many criminals. But I couldn't share my greatest achievement with you." The hall fell silent. Mike continued. 25 years ago, in a joint operation with the FBI, we brought down America's largest money laundering network. I worked undercover for 4 years. This operation was kept secret, but now I can tell the story." Surprised voices rose from the hall. Mike's colleagues realized they had no knowledge of such an operation. After Mike's announcement, the hall stood up and applauded for minutes. FBI Director William Barnes had also attended the ceremony and confirmed Mike's story. Detective Sullivan's operation is one of the most successful examples of FBI-NYPD cooperation. Barnes said, "He risked his life for 4 years and protected America from major financial crimes." After the ceremony, the media showed great interest. Mike's story became headlines in newspapers. Patrick and Maggie talked to their father. Both were in shock. "Dad," Patrick said, "did you live with criminals for 4 years?" "Yes," Mike said. "And this affected our family. I couldn't spend enough time with you during that period." Maggie hugged her father with tears in her eyes. "Now I understand everything. That's why you were so stressed during that time." Helen also supported her husband. "Now you have no secrets left in the past," she said. "We all know the truth." Mike's story attracted great interest from the public. Several publishers offered to make his story into a book. Mike was initially reluctant, but with the FBI's encouragement, he wrote his book Deep Cover, 4 Years Inside America's Biggest Crime Family. The book was published in 2024 and became a bestseller. Netflix also wanted to make Mike's story into a documentary. The documentary called The Silent Detective was released in 2024 and received great acclaim. Mike donated 50% of the book in documentary proceeds to Police Martyrs Foundation. Mike's story began to be taught as a case study in police academies. At the FBI Academy, it became a course called Sullivan Case Study. Mike regularly began to be a guest speaker at police academies. He told young police officers about the difficulties of undercover operation. Undercover operation isn't just technical skill, he would say. It also requires psychological endurance and family sacrifice. Many young police officers wanted to work in organized crime units. Taking Mike as an example, after Mike's story emerged, Vincent Torino's life in Italy was also investigated. Italian police confirmed that Vincent had indeed led a clean life. The small olive farm Vincent established in Italy had now been donated to a local orphan. Also, in his will written before his death, he had written, "I present my respects to Detective Mike Sullivan." This information deeply affected Mike. Seeing that Vincent had really changed, showed that the operation had resulted not only in catching criminals but also in changing people. Mike's story attracted interest, not only in America but worldwide. Police organizations in countries like Italy, England, Germany began inviting Mike for seminars. Interpol appointed Mike as a consultant on international organized crime fight. He was now sharing his experiences with police worldwide. Organized crime is global, Mike would say at international meetings. Our fight must also be global. Mike's case also attracted the attention of criminology academics. Universities like Harvard, Columbia, Yale began studying it as a case study. Dr. Sarah Chen, Stanford University, published her study The Sullivan Effect, Psychology of Long-Term Undercover Operation. Michael Rodriguez, John Jay College of Criminal Justice, examined the ethical dimensions of Mike's operation with his article Ethics in Deep Cover, Lessons from the Sullivan Case. These academic studies helped understand the psychological and ethical effects of undercover operation. As of 2024, Mike Sullivan, at 64, is living in active retirement. He works as a special advisor at the NYPD and provides consulting on fighting organized crime. He also teaches as a guest instructor at the FBI Academy. He teaches undercover operation techniques to young FBI agents. Mike's biggest project was founding the Silent Heroes Foundation. This foundation provides support to families of agents working in undercover operations. Helen and Mike's marriage strengthened after the secret was revealed. Now there were no secrets between them. In 2023, Patrick's son was born. Mike is experiencing the happiness of being a grandfather. They named his grandson Gabriel. Maggie married in 2024. At the wedding, Mike experienced very emotional moments while walking his daughter down the aisle. "Now my family knows everything," says Mike. This is a great relief. Mike's story has become not just a past success, but a continuing legacy. Undercover operation procedures known as the Sullivan Protocol were developed at the NYPD. At the FBI, an annual award called the Sullivan Award is given. This award is given to agents successful in long-term undercover operation. Mike says about his story, "Having to keep it secret for 25 years was very difficult, especially for my family. But this operation protected America from major financial crimes. My only regret is not being able to be friends with Vincent. He was actually a good person who had lost his way. Our operation brought him to the right path. Undercover operations are not heroism. They are duty. But sometimes this duty can change people in ways you don't expect." Mike's story teaches police this. Sometimes your greatest achievements remain secret, but this doesn't mean those achievements are worthless. "I remained silent for 25 years, says Mike. But now my silence inspires others. This is also a kind of justice." His story also emphasizes the importance of family sacrifice. Helen's patience and his children's understanding played a big role in the operation's success. Today, Mike Sullivan lives a quiet retirement in New York, but he's still active in fighting organized crime. He does consulting, writes books, gives speeches. His biggest goal is to pass on his experiences to the young generation of police. Organized crime never ends, he says. But our fight doesn't end either. In Mike Sullivan's office, Vincent Torino's last letter hangs framed. Next to it are the commendation certificate from the FBI and the NYPD retirement plaque. This letter shows me, says Mike, that policing isn't just about catching criminals. Sometimes it's also about changing people. Every day, Mike watches the New York streets from his window. He knows that new generation police continue their duty out there, and maybe among them are those who will conduct major undercover operations in the future. Silent heroes, says Mike, are the strongest voices, because when they speak, everyone listens. Mike Sullivan's 25-year silence has ended, but the legacy he left continues to inspire new silent heroes. Have you ever wondered if the police officers you know have secret stories? What did this story remind you of? Share in the comments, because the stories of silent heroes deserve to be shared. And if this story taught you something, don't forget to subscribe, because we'll continue telling real security stories. Every day, we share the stories of silent heroes.